Imagine a world long before pyramids, kings, or fire, when humans stood at the edge of survival itself. The wind howled across ancient England's coast, waves crashed against chalk cliffs, and in the hand of one early human, a single stone became the first spark of progress. It was over 400,000 years ago, on the desolate shores of what is now Clacton-on-Sea. There, amid the mud and flint, the first traces of a mysterious people emerged, a forgotten chapter in the human story known as the Clactonian Industry. Their tools were rough and crude, yet deliberate and purposeful. They mark one of the earliest signs of intelligence on European soil. But who were these people? Were they our ancestors, or an entirely different kind of human? And why did their way of life vanish, leaving behind only silent stones? Welcome back to Whispers of Lost World, the channel where we explore the forgotten chapters of human history and uncover the stories buried beneath time. In today's episode, we travel back nearly 500,000 years to unravel one of prehistory's most intriguing mysteries: the Clactonian Industry, a simple yet revolutionary system of stone tool-making that forever changed how humans interacted with the world around them. By the end of this video, you'll understand how these seemingly primitive stones became the foundation of human innovation. How, with nothing but flint and instinct, our ancestors began to think, plan, and adapt. Because this is not just the story of broken rocks, it is the story of how the human mind was born. It all began in the early 20th century, when an archaeologist named J. Reed Moyer made a remarkable discovery along the River Thames near Clacton-on-Sea, England. As he examined the ancient river terraces, he found a collection of stone flakes unlike any others known at the time. These tools lacked the symmetrical elegance of the Acheulean hand axes, the hallmark of early human craftsmanship. Instead, they were roughly flaked pebbles, chipped crudely on one side. Most scholars dismissed them as debris, fragments from broken axes. But Moyer saw a pattern. Each flake had been struck deliberately, each blow calculated to produce a sharp, cutting edge. These weren't mistakes. They were the fingerprints of intention, evidence that someone had shaped them for a purpose. When the artifacts were dated, scientists were stunned, over 400,000 years old. That placed them among the earliest human tools in Northern Europe. The discovery forced a new question: who made them? Were they Homo heidelbergensis, the ancestor of both Neanderthals and modern humans? Or a species even older, now lost to time? We still don't know for sure. But what's certain is that the people of Clacton left behind one of the earliest proofs of human design thinking. At first glance, their tools seem unimpressive, simple flakes of flint struck from river pebbles. But hidden within that simplicity lies a remarkable kind of intelligence. The Clactonians used locally available flint, striking off sharp flakes with hammerstones. Each flake could serve as a knife, scraper, or carving edge. And unlike the Acheulean craftsmen, who spent time shaping their hand axes into perfect teardrops, the Clactonians valued speed and practicality. Their approach was minimalist but effective. The world's first disposable blade system. Some archaeologists once called them less advanced, but today we see the opposite. Their tools were not primitive, they were purposeful. The Clactonian technique was quick, adaptable, and efficient, perfectly suited to a harsh Ice Age climate where every moment of daylight mattered. They had no time for artistry, they needed results. In a way, they were the engineers of survival, mastering functionality over form, long before the word design existed. To truly understand them, we must step into their world. Britain then was not an island, but part of a vast European plain, connected to the continent by frozen tundra and low grasslands. Herds of mammoth and woolly rhinoceros roamed freely. Saber-toothed cats and hyenas stalked the valleys. The air was cold and damp, filled with the constant roar of wind and surf. Along the riverbanks, small groups of early humans, perhaps a few dozen individuals, built temporary camps. They hunted large animals with sharpened wooden spears and butchered carcasses using flint flakes. They slept in open shelters or caves, huddled close for warmth. Fire, if it was known at all, came from natural sources, a lightning strike or a forest fire, and was treasured like a gift from the gods. Their nights were long, cold, and dangerous. Yet they survived because they had learned how to think differently, to adapt, to use what was around them. They were no longer creatures reacting to nature. They were beings shaping it. Their story is also one of debate and mystery. For decades, archaeologists argued whether the Clactonian industry was truly unique or simply a poor imitation of the Acheulean tradition. Were these people less intelligent? Or were they pioneers of a different philosophy? Evidence from sites like Swanscombe and Barnfield Pit revealed a pattern that couldn't be ignored: identical flake shapes, repeating angles of percussion, and deliberate sequences of blows. This wasn't chaos, it was method, system. Experimental archaeology later confirmed that Clactonian flakes could be produced quickly and in large numbers, ideal for mobile hunter-gatherers who needed tools on demand. Unlike the heavy hand axes of the Acheuleans, which required time and skill, the Clactonian tools could be made anywhere, anytime, from almost any stone. They were efficient, portable, and disposable, the prehistoric equivalent of convenience technology. In that sense, the Clactonian people were not behind. They were ahead. They had discovered what every great inventor eventually learns, that simplicity often wins over perfection. And then, just as suddenly as they appeared, the Clactonian people vanished. Their industry disappeared from the archaeological record, replaced once more by Acheulean hand axes, and later by the more refined Mousterian tools of the Neanderthals. No one knows exactly why. Perhaps environmental shifts forced migrations that wiped them out. Perhaps they were absorbed by other populations whose techniques evolved differently. Or perhaps their simplicity was misunderstood and forgotten in the march toward complexity. Yet the ideas they introduced, adaptability, efficiency, and resourcefulness, never truly vanished. They lived on, buried deep within the human instinct to innovate. The Clactonian industry may not have built monuments, but it built something far more lasting: the mindset that would one day shape everything from bronze to silicon. Now, imagine one of them, standing by the edge of the ancient Thames nearly 500,000 years ago. He's tall, muscular, his body wrapped in fur, his hands are rough, his eyes sharp. In front of him lies a flint pebble. He picks it up, weighs it, turns it in his fingers, and strikes. A chip flies off, revealing a cutting edge. Again, he strikes cleaner this time, deliberate. Sparks flash briefly in the gray light. He stops, examines the flake, and smiles faintly. His companion, a woman, nods in approval. Without words they understand. The tool passes from hand to hand. A child watches, learning through imitation. Soon, meat is being sliced, hides are being stripped, and life continues, another day won against the elements. They don't know it, but in that moment, they are doing something extraordinary. They're thinking, creating, inventing. The act of flint knapping, of making a tool from stone, is an act of imagination. It's the first whisper of consciousness. The Clactonian world was brutal, but not meaningless. Through those cold nights and endless migrations, their simple tools carried a profound legacy. They proved that intelligence doesn't begin with words or art, it begins with adaptation. But the Clactonians didn't write history. They chipped it, flake by flake, into the bones of the earth. Every fragment we uncover today, every sharp-edged flint, is a sentence in that ancient, wordless story. It tells us that progress isn't always about refinement or complexity. Sometimes it's about knowing when enough is enough. The Clactonian people mastered that balance between simplicity and survival. And that mastery may have been one of the earliest expressions of human reason. So what can we take from their story? The Clactonian industry, dating back some 400,000 years, was one of humanity's earliest technological traditions. Its makers, likely Homo heidelbergensis, crafted simple yet effective flint flakes using deliberate methods that prioritized practicality over perfection. They lived before fire was fully controlled, before structured language. Yet they displayed intelligence, cooperation, and foresight. Their approach to toolmaking, quick, flexible, and adaptive, may have laid the groundwork for later innovations. Though some once dismissed them as primitive, new evidence shows they were innovators of minimalism, showing that survival and creativity were deeply connected even in the earliest humans. The Clactonian legacy teaches us that intelligence isn't just the power to make complex things, it's the wisdom to make the simple things work. If this journey into our forgotten origins fascinated you, don't let it end here. Hit that like button, subscribe to Whispers of Lost World, and ring the bell so you never miss our next descent into the ancient unknown. Tell me in the comments below, what do you think mattered most to early humans? Intelligence, instinct, or adaptation? Because every time we pick up a tool, every time we solve a problem with our hands, we are continuing a legacy born 400,000 years ago on a lonely English shore where a small group of humans struck stone against stone and sparked the first glimmer of civilization.